Bassant Hemida of Egypt in lane 3. She's been moving up from the sprints, and her 100 and 200 meter speed gives her a real weapon over this distance. She posted 53.26 in the semi-final to get here, and that kind of raw pace makes her dangerous over one lap. Mette Baas of Finland in lane 4. She owns a personal best of 52.57 and took Indoor European Championship gold last season. She's the one to beat in this final. And Tharaldsen Danielsen of Norway in lane 2. She's on the inside, looking to make her presence felt over this one lap. End. And they're off. All three out hard from the blocks. Hemida out quick on the inside. Driving through that opening bend. Baas in lane 4, smooth and controlled, not chasing, just waiting. Danielsen working, but she's getting gapped. Into the back straight, Hemida pushes hard, Baas right on her shoulder as they swing into the final curve. Baas surges. She's moving now. Baas pulls level off the final bend. That early pace is costing Hemida now. Baas is driving hard and she's got more in the tank. Baas hits the front and she's clear. Hemida's legs are gone. The Finn is pulling away with 50 meters to go. Mette Baas wins. Gold for Finland. She crosses in 52.57, a terrific run from the European indoor champion. Hemida holds on for silver. Danielsen takes bronze. Baas spreads her arms wide at the line. The scoreboard locks in 52.57. She had the legs when Hemida didn't, and that decided it. Mette Baas won this race at the final curve, not the finish line. That's the moment worth examining, because everything that happened after it was inevitable. Through the opening bend, Baas was doing something that looks passive but isn't. She sat in lane 4, smooth and unhurried, watching Hemida push from lane 3. Hemida got out fast, the way sprinters do when they transition up to the 400. She drove hard through that first bend, trying to build a lead she could defend. It's a reasonable plan if you have the endurance to back it up. The problem is that the 400 meters is unforgiving in a way the 100 and 200 never are. Pace judgment isn't just a tactical choice at this distance, it's a physical necessity. Go too hard in the first 200 and your legs tell you about it from 300 meters onward. Hemida found that out the hard way. Baas, meanwhile, was running a completely different race inside her own head. She stayed right on Hemida's shoulder through the back straight, close enough to monitor, far enough to stay relaxed. That shoulder position is deliberate. You don't want to be so far back that you've got too much ground to make up. And you don't want to be so close, that you're already spending energy matching every surge. Baas found that balance. And then, at the final curve, she shifted. There's a word coaches use, transition. The move from controlled running to racing. Baas made that transition at exactly the right moment. She surged off the curve with the kind of drive that comes from legs that haven't been fully committed yet. By the time they hit the final straight, the race was already over in any practical sense. Hemida's form had broken down. The arms go wide, the stride shortens. The head tilts back slightly. These are the signs of a runner who has spent too much of their anaerobic reserve and is now running on fumes. Baas crossed the line at 52.57 with clear daylight behind her. The margin, 52.57 to 53.26. Nearly 7/10 of a second. In a 3-woman final, that might read as modest separation, but on the track, it's a decisive result. Baas didn't just edge past Hemida, she ran through her. The gap only grew in the final 50 meters, which tells you Baas had more left than she needed. That's how you want to win a 400. You want to be accelerating, or at least holding form, while everyone else is decelerating. Baas was doing exactly that. The lane assignment worked in Baas's favor tactically, though not for the reason most people think. Lane 4 doesn't give her a significant physical advantage over lane 3. The stagger is minimal at this distance. What it gives her is sight lines. Running one lane outside Hemida, Baas could see her the entire race. She could read the Egyptian's body language, monitor her stride, sense when the pace was unsustainable. Lane 3 runners have a harder time making that judgment because they can't see who's behind them. Hemida was running by feel. Baas was running with information. Her curve mechanics on the final bend were clean, which matters. One of the most common technical errors in the 400 is what coaches call wide running, drifting to the outside of your lane through the curve because you're trying to ease the centrifugal load on tired legs. It slows you down and adds distance. Baas stayed on her line. Her lean through the bend was controlled, her foot strike stayed efficient, and she came off the curve upright and in full stride. That's technique under fatigue, and it's harder than it looks when your legs are already accumulating lactate from 300 meters of hard running. Hemida's performance at 53.26 deserves honest analysis because it isn't simply a failure. She ran 53.26 in a race she led for most of the first lap. That's a competitive time. Her problem isn't talent, it's the specific endurance demands of the 400 that her body is still adapting to. Sprinters who move up to the 400 go through a phase where their early speed is an asset, but their closing speed becomes a liability, because they haven't yet built the aerobic capacity to hold form at race pace over 400 meters. Hemida is in that phase. The good news for her is that it's a phase, not a ceiling. Athletes who come from genuine sprint speed and commit to the 400 can develop into real threats once the endurance base catches up with the raw pace. She has the tools, she needs the miles. Danielsen finished in 56.22, and the margin from second to third, nearly 3 full seconds, tells you the competitive tier she's in right now relative to Baas and Hemida. She was gapped before the back straight and never threatened. That's not a criticism so much as an honest reading of where she stands. 3-woman finals expose gaps that a larger field might obscure, and this result makes the gap visible. Whether she can close it is a question for the next season. For Baas, 52.57 outdoors, combined with the Indoor European Championship gold last season, establishes a clear profile. She's consistent, she's tactical, and she can execute under pressure. Finnish women's 400-meter running doesn't have a long history of producing athletes at this level, and Baas is operating in genuinely competitive territory. The European 400 has real depth right now. Several athletes across the continent are running sub-52 on their best days, and breaking into that group is the next threshold for Baas. The gap between 52.57 and sub-52 is not enormous in raw terms, maybe a second, but in competitive terms it's the difference between contending and dominating. She's currently on the contending side of that line. What this win signals is not just current form, it's a pattern. An indoor European title followed by a 52.57 outdoor win is not a fluke, it's a trajectory. The athletes who consistently perform in the 52-point range outdoors while also winning in championship conditions are the ones who tend to break through at world or European level when the field opens up. Baas is running the right times at the right moments. The immediate question for her is what the next major competition looks like and whether she can replicate this in a larger, faster field. Running 52.57 to win a 3-woman final is one thing. Running 52.57 and finishing in the medals in a 9-woman world championship final is another. The tactical demands change when there are bodies everywhere. What's that size shot? When the pace distribution shifts. When you can't simply track the one athlete in front of you. That's the next test, but she's earned the right to take it. She crossed the line in 52.57, arms out, clear winner. Finland's flag on the scoreboard. That's where things stand.